Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Talking Knicks. I'll be your host this evening. This is Greg. Jake is incapacitated somewhere. His words, not mine. I'm joined by my brother Kenny and my good friend Tom. How are you boys doing? Kenny, we'll start with you. Go.
I'm doing good. I didn't go to work this last week, which was great. And then, before I even knew that today was a national holiday, like I booked that vacation, so I got an extra day at the end of the vacation, which was nice. But yeah, I went and saw Jake in Colorado during that vacation, and he said that a couple other of our friends are coming up to go skiing with him and his girlfriend. So that's where he is, skiing.
Nice. And that extra day off will make it that much harder to go back to work. How about you,
True.
Tom? How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Let's talk Knicks.
Wow. Boom, boom. Boom, boom, ba-dum, ba-dum, boom, boom. All right.
Now, Greg, I lied. I'm not that good. My heat was broken all day today on the coldest day of the year. I don't know if that's just bad luck or what, but I was basically just bundled up in a winter coat and scarf and mittens for the entire day in my home. Was not very productive, but I got to watch the Knicks play a little hoops and talk to you guys. So those are the two highlights of my day.
That's sad that watching that Knicks game was one of the highlights of your day.
You're telling me.
All right. I'm doing well, too. Thanks for asking. This weekend, me and my other siblings threw a surprise party for our friend Kenny here, who turned 30.
Hey.
Least surprising surprise party ever. While Kenny was on his plane to Denver, I texted Robbie, Mandy, and Kenny, my other two siblings and Kenny, and I said, what should we tell Kenny about Saturday? And then I realized what I'd done, and I immediately just said LOL in the group chat.
So my question is, Kenny, did you know something was up based on that first text, or was it the LOL that gave it away?
So I saw them all at the same time because I got off the plane. So it's impossible to say, but I think that first text kind of gave it away. But I talked to Dave's wife, Tom's twin brother's wife, and she said you played it off pretty well in the secret group that you guys were texting in, and said as long as I'm the dumbest person in the world, the surprise is still on.
It's true.
Which she appreciated.
I will say you were quite surprised.
I was. So what does that say about me?
No, you were not surprised at all.
Now, I will say I was surprised at a couple of the attendants. Tim McGovern, friend of the program, big Knicks fan, he was there. And our neighbor, Kevin Kett, was there.
Uninvited,
mostly to see me, but I guess he also had some other stuff going on there.
Yeah, he's also a fan of the program, I assume. All right, that's enough of that. Let's talk Knicks. I don't know if if the theme song will have already played by now, or if they're gonna listen to it again, or I assume this will be in it too. But anyway, the Knicks. Let's talk about them. 2 games this week. We didn't do the pod last night, so we got an extra game in today on Martin Luther King Day. Happy Martin Luther King Day, everybody. So first game, Knicks went to London, so that's why they only had 1 game during the week. Went to London for a bad experience. So the Knicks are winning this game the entire time until the fourth quarter, and then epic collapse. I guess it's just a normal collapse in Knicks world. And they lose the game on a game-losing goaltend. Never before done. Knicks hitting rock bottom. Kenny, you weren't at work, so you saw some of this game. I didn't see any of it. I just heard about it. So you give us what you got.
So I saw the majority of this game because I was at our sister Mandy's house. Unfortunately, her 2-year-old son was watching Mamma Mia using the television, so I was watching on my phone. But still got the gist of it. Like Greg said, the Knicks were up, most of the game, and were up large for portions of the game, well over double digits. And then it was nap time in the house, so everyone took a nap, and I kind of fell along with that for, I don't know, like 1 quarter. And in that 1 quarter, the Knicks gave up their entire lead. And then I watched the fourth quarter, which was it was a tight quarter, pretty back and forth. The Knicks then took the lead, and then they had this ridiculous goaltend. And I think we talked about it a little bit amongst ourselves that first off, I don't know what they were doing with rotations. Like maybe if you're up one with, I think it was like 5 seconds left, maybe you put in Mitchell Robinson to play some defense at the rim. Maybe you put in Frank Ntilikina to play some defense on the perimeter. But neither of those two things happened, which wasn't ideal. It looked like when the shot went up, I think it was Moutier might have gotten a piece of it. Not sure if the shot would have gone in anyways. It wasn't really clear from any of the camera angles, but that doesn't matter because Alonzo Trier hit it on the way down for a game-losing goaltend, which was pretty bad. Pretty bad.
It's a tough break, Kenny. And like I watched through the first 3 quarters, saw the Knicks were up 12, and I was like, this game is over. So I flipped on Mamma Mia myself. And I was like, I checked the score like halfway through, and I was shocked to see. I shouldn't have been shocked, but the Wizards and made their comeback. It was just so Knicksy. It's tough to stomach, but at the same time, there's a huge portion of the fan base that is thrilled that they lost this game because it continues the tank.
All right, one thing I'll say, you said they're up 12. To start the fourth quarter, they're up 89-77. That's the 12 Tom's talking about. And after 8 minutes and 45 seconds, the score was 91-94. The Knicks had scored 2 points in 8 minutes and 45 seconds, and we're now losing by 3. What do you guys think about scoring 2 points in 8 minutes and 45 seconds?
Yeah, that's not ideal. You definitely want to score more than 2 points over an 8-minute period. And let me, for perspective on all the basketball I watched this week, during my vacation, I went to Miami. I watched the Miami Heat game play against, don't remember who it was, but that was a pretty good game. And then I went
go and watch too many Miami Heat games.
The Memphis Grizzlies, I believe.
Memphis Grizzlies. And I might come back to that because there was a couple cool things that happened there. But then I also, when I went to Denver, Jake and I went and watched Denver play Golden State. And Golden State scored 51 points in the first quarter of that game. And if you compare that with the Knicks scoring 2 points over an 8-minute span in a quarter, like that's why they're better than us.
Imagine if they were playing each other.
Yeah,
it was 51-2.
Yeah, that'd be bad. But I mean, I think I've been saying it, and I've been thinking it all season. Like I feel as though Fizdale has put a much bigger emphasis, and he seems to appreciate players who play offensively much more than he appreciates the players that play defensively. And the problem with that is the Knicks players aren't that good offensively that they can just completely ignore defense, because occasionally you'll get a quarter where you go out and don't score until there's 4 minutes left in the quarter.
Yeah, the other problem is that basketball, you have to play both sides. It's not like football where you can specialize. You're on the court and you have to play defense and offense, and the Knicks don't have a lot of guys that can do that.
Yep, not ideal.
Yeah, I mean, let's hop off. I mean, anything else to say about the Wizards game? It was bad, but the Thunder game was worse. How about that? So I turned on the Thunder game today. Was watching it. Knicks just losing by 22 in the first quarter. I think they got it down to like 13 or low teens a couple times, but it was never close again. So just a terrible experience. You want to watch the Knicks and have fun, but they just start the game losing by 20, and then you're like, I'm gonna watch the rest of this game. I guess I don't know. But anyway, no, go for it. What do you got?
I think there were a couple bright spots. Tim Hardaway Jr. had a efficient scoring night, scoring 23 points on 14 shots, 7 of 14 from the field, 4 of 9 from 3. Alonzo Trier, or as Tom learned from Jonathan Macri, Trier, which is what Jake's been saying, and I've been questioning this entire time, but apparently that's how his mom pronounces it, so maybe we'll go with that. He scored 16 points on 8 shots, 10 of 10 from free throw line, and with 8 assists and 6 rebounds, which is pretty good for him. And then Frank Ntilikina, my boy, had a very good game, all around. He didn't shoot it particularly well based on the box score. He was 4 for 12, but he was aggressive. He had some nice moves. He made a couple nice floaters. Scored 11 points, had 5 assists, and he played some very nice defensive possessions. He had 1 against Paul George, 2 against Russell Westbrook, and 1 against Dennis Schroeder, where he just, completely prevented them from doing anything that they wanted to do. And that's something that's really cool to see. We saw that a lot last year. We saw the highlights with him against, Kyrie Irving and James Harden. And we haven't seen as much of it this year. So to see it, 4 or 5 times in one game was I think, a very exciting thing for me personally, as I'm both a Frank guy and I'm a defense guy. So it was nice to see.
Frank fans are the best because they're the only ones who will get pumped over a defensive highlight, not like a block or a steal, but just sound, fundamental defensive slides for 12 seconds and just get amped about that. It's like the James Harden step back for Frank fans.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because none of that shows up in a box score. There were at least 4 possessions where he played great defense on whoever he was guarding for a possession. And that changes games, and no one can see that in the box score because it doesn't result in a steal or anything.
Yeah, that's highlight-worthy defense there. I just want to nitpick one thing. I watched Alonzo Trier's 8 assists. NBA.com lets you just go back and watch them all in a row. And some of those are just straight up, he would throw a pass to the perimeter, and a couple times Frank just beat his guy one-on-one, and they called it a Trier assist. I'd say 3 of those 8 were good passes, which is still a lot for Trier, but 8 is a little misleading in my opinion.
So Tom, we can't, beggars can't be choosers. At this point, as long as the Knicks are getting assists, I'm happy. I was saying that for years about Rajon Rondo, is that I think his assists were inflated because he had Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and Paul Pierce just catching and shooting. But, an assist's an assist, so we got to take it, man.
It doesn't sound like this was just catching and shooting. This was just catching and then doing your own thing and then scoring. But I'll take it. I don't care.
Greg's characterization is the correct one there. It was like passing into an isolation and getting credit for someone else's good move. But beggars can't be choosers, like Kenny said. Yeah. And Frank finished with 5 assists, so I'm gonna check those out real quick. I'm gonna be on mute for a moment.
And to talk about a couple of those assists, alley-oops to Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson back. He's been gone for a while. Came back for the first time this week. Played against the Wizards. Played against the Thunder today. A little rusty. He looked good, but he fouled out in 16 minutes today, which is not great. But he had 8 points on 4 for 4 shooting and 6 rebounds. That's pretty good. 2 blocks as well. So Kenny, what are you thinking? You can go back to the assist if that's what you're still on.
No, so sticking with Mitchell Robinson for a second, both of his blocks, he did what he does with blocks, and he kept them both in play. And I think the Knicks ended up with a ball. I know one of them he blocked to Dotson, led to a fast break. I don't recall the result of that fast break, but that's a very valuable skill. And like you said, a little bit rusty, so that might kind of account a little bit for how quickly he fouled out. He's been foul prone the entire season, but fouling out in 16 minutes is pretty quick. So maybe he's just about getting your timing back and getting back to full speed. So not worried about him, about those fouls, and I think he had a solid game.
So when I was listening to the game, Mike Breen was saying, with Mitchell Robinson back, Enes Kanter is kind of the third center. So what do you think of that? Is that true? Is Kornet going back to the bench eventually and Robinson going into the starting lineup? What's going on here? Are they going to play all 3 of them? I don't know. So, it's tough with centers.
That brings me back to kind of something I mentioned to you guys is at halftime, they interviewed the coaching staff, and they said the coaching staff said what they really need to focus on this quarter is defense, because their defense hasn't been good this game, obviously. And then to start the third quarter, they brought in Enes Kanter, which I was like, he's legitimately one of the worst defensive players in the game. So what you're saying and what you're doing don't add up, which was a little frustrating. But I don't know that I saw Kornet play at all in the second half.
They said he sprained his ankle and he was out.
Okay. All right, so that maybe that's why Kanter took over. So forget everything I just said.
But still, you could have started Robinson though.
Well, it does seem like Kanter is going to be the odd man out here, and it seems like he and Fizdale have had maybe a conversation about it. I know ESPN's Ian Begley just reported about an hour ago that Kanter's disappointed with his role. So his quote was, "I was very disappointed. There was nothing to be happy about, so I'm not happy, and I definitely don't agree with the decision, of course." So he's already like, I mean, he said a few things to the media about his discontent with Fizdale's role for him in the offense, and so I'm thinking it's time to just move on, find some expiring salary, and just get rid of this guy. Maybe some team thinks that Kanter can help them in the playoffs. But either way, I wouldn't even be looking for an asset in return. I know there's been some talk of like Kanter for an expiring and a second round pick, but really just Kanter for an expiring, just to get him out of the rotation would do the trick for me.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think I would rather, trade Kanter for nothing, maybe, just because I'm worried about the Knicks bringing in another person to compete for a backcourt spot. Normally, you wouldn't do that, but like the way that the Knicks are assembled, they just have a lot of people in the backcourt and no one in the front court. So I don't even know that I want anything for him. Just get rid of him, right?
Hey, why not? If we're going to be playing Kornet and Robinson, that's good. Isaiah Hicks has apparently been hooping in the G League, put up 27 last game. So he'll be up eventually, I'm sure. And
Vonleh can play some like third string center minutes.
That's true,
if need be.
Vonleh, our best player, unfortunately.
So I think what they're probably going to end up looking to do is getting another one of these second chance guys. I know that there's been rumors about the Knicks potentially looking at Jabari Parker, which maybe works a little better, but still, like, I want this team to develop some offensive cohesion rather than having, 5 guys on this team that all go ISO.
Where did you read the Jabari Parker thing? I haven't heard that.
I saw that on Reddit that there was rumors that the Knicks had, take it as with a grain of salt, just because I haven't heard it from Woj, which is the only trustworthy source in the NBA. But they said that like the Knicks had kicked the tires on, starting a discussion about Jabari Parker. Not that it's made it anywhere, but they have inquired about it.
All right. I know they were talking about Zach Randolph in some capacity at the Kings, but again, you'd still need some more money to make it work. Maybe you throw in Trey Burke. He's got a very low salary, and you could mix and match with some other people. It's all going to happen in the next couple of weeks. Trade deadline's February 7th, so hopefully some fireworks start going off.
Do you guys expect the Knicks to be very active?
I expect something. I don't know. I would just assume that they're going to grab a second round pick from someone. I don't think they're going to get any player that they like, really. But I think they're just going to try to grab an asset that you can attach to Courtney Lee at a later date.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Is like, do you think they're going to try and get off of THJ or Courtney Lee or Lance Thomas?
Yeah, so I think they're going to try to, but I think they have to do something else. Like they just have to clear up the backcourt. I don't even think that, and I don't know if he's injured or what the deal is, but I don't even think Trey Burke was on today's game roster. And Lance Thomas and Courtney Lee, the two veterans, neither of them saw the floor on coaches' decisions, which is a part of their development move. So, I think at some point they're just going to need to make some moves either way. But yeah, I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to be hard to move. His contract's going to be very hard to move. But I think other guys, they might have an easier time unloading.
Yeah, I'm thinking that. I'm thinking that everybody's all the big contracts are gonna stick on the team until the off season, and then it'll be easier to move them when everyone has their cap space and is figuring out what they're doing. Maybe
and they'll be expiring come the summer.
Yeah, exactly. At least Lance and Courtney Lee will.
Lance and Courtney Lee, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I could jump in for just 1 second, what I was gonna say earlier on the assists is, I think Tom noted that maybe some of the assists were questionable, and something very random that just bothered me a little bit is afterwards, someone during the press conference asked David Fizdale about how the second unit played, and specifically he asked him about Frank after saying, what did you think of the second unit and how they did, and how Frank did. And Fizdale's response was to just say that Alonzo Trier had a good game and had 8 assists, which was good for a guy like him, and he didn't really even address Frank. Now I don't know if there's anything there, just because maybe he got part of the answer out and then didn't really remember that at the beginning of the question he was asked specifically about Frank. But it bothered me a little bit that he wasn't more appreciative of how good Frank's game was, at least outwardly. Outwardly.
Yeah, that's kind of been the story of the season a little bit, is maybe Fizdale underrating or underestimating Frank's value, thinking that Mudiay Mudiay probably today he's certainly a better offensive player than Frank. There's no question about that. But there's an argument to be made that with Frank's defense that they're closer in value than maybe their playing time splits have suggested. And there's also the point that you could play both of them together, that Frank doesn't have to always be the lead guard, that there'd still be value to getting him on the court in big minutes, in big moments, even if it is as an off guard.
Yeah, and that's something else that I was saying to you before is I wonder whether the Knicks are, the reason that they're giving Mudiay the minutes is because, they basically got him for nothing, and maybe they're trying to move him. They're trying to move a guy like Vonleh just to get something. Because like we've tweeted from the Talking Knicks account, he said early in the season that he stopped playing Dotson and Frank because it's not like the team was winning with them. They went 3-6 in their 9 games. But with Mudiay at the helm, he's given him free reign to do whatever he wants. And the Knicks are 6-25, which is good for a less than 20% winning percentage, which is bad. But he seems to be rolling with Mudiay all the way.
It does sound bad. And I know Tom pointed this out maybe pre-pod. I don't know if he said it on the pod, but Mudiay today, minus 21 in 18 minutes. Frank plus 3 in 30 minutes. So if Frank just played the whole game, we would have won, I think.
That's what that means.
Plus minus is such a weird stat, though, because if you go back to that game in London, you'll see Mudiay was 11 of 18 from the field for 25 points and was a team worst minus 12 in plus minus. Frank, 1 of 7 from the field, 3 points, and was plus 11 and led the team in plus minus. It's hard to say Frank was a positive, but when he was on the court, good things happened. You don't know if that's a coincidence or luck or what it is, but if it happens enough, then that pattern does mean something.
And I will say, I've been a proponent that Frank's value doesn't show up in a box score just because his defense doesn't show up in a box score. And I'm hoping that the Knicks have some analytics people who realize that Mudiay is not a great defender, and maybe they need to give Frank a couple more minutes. And I'll say that is the one good thing about today's game, about going down 25 early, is that they let Frank play. So he played 30 minutes tonight, which is awesome. I'd like to see that a little more. And he had the opportunity to show what he can do. And I think he had a positive impact on the game. Yeah.
In general, in the season, though, Frank has been one of the the worst in terms of the net rating differential. So when Frank's on the court, the Knicks lose to opponents. They're minus 9.7 per 100 possessions. When Frank's on the court, I'm sorry, when he's on the court, they're minus 9.7 per 100 possessions. When he's off the court, they're minus 5.6. So they're about. I may have done some bad math there, but Frank is the third worst on the team in net rating differential. That's behind Kevin Knox, who's the worst, and Tim Hardaway Jr., who's second worst. So it's on the whole during the season, Frank has not been a plus on the court.
Yeah, Tom, I only like advanced stats if they help my case, so maybe shut up.
Well, I butchered that one anyway, so it didn't mean anything.
Strong points by you both. I mean, I feel like every week's tough as a Knicks fan. I don't know. I feel like it's been pretty quick, but is there anything else we need to touch upon?
I feel like we've been going for an hour. Is that not right?
It always feels that way with the Knicks these days.
I want to keep talking about Frank, if
Go
that's
for
cool
it.
with you guys.
Would love to hear.
So Green today was saying some things, and I think, in his presser before the game, Fizdale said a few things about Frank being a guy who, would be better on a better team, and like that's something that I've been thinking about for a little while since I think Tom wrote a piece about. I think it was one of his 3-2-1 pieces with B-Ball Index. Go check it out if you haven't. But he was saying how most of the Knicks are really bad at cutting. And, he pointed out specifically Dotson as a guy who's good at cutting. And I wonder, how much of that is due to the fact that the Knicks are just a team of ISO players. So if you're a guy who's going to cut and you're pretty sure that nothing's going to come of it because, ISO Zoe is going with his head down and he's not going to see you anyways. Because there was a couple of possessions today. There was one in particular that I'm thinking of where Frank was just wide open at three. They had completely left him. And I think it was ISO Zoe was driving, so he didn't even look at him. So when you have that going on and you don't really have an offense, you just have a lot of ISO, I think that limits your capabilities. And like Frank's a guy, his point guard skills is more of a, within a team environment. And it's like we were saying with a pickup basketball game, if you go out there and play with a bunch of guys you don't really know, if you pass the ball, you're probably never going to see it again. And that, can start to affect your play. And that's how I feel about Frank, is that, what he'll do is he'll go up the court and start the play. And then he looks like he's worried he's never going to see it again because whoever he's passing it to is just going to either chuck it or drive themselves. So I think I have to believe if the Knicks get better and they actually put together an offense, he will improve exponentially because he's kind of a glue guy that plays that seems to like he would play better within a team environment rather than this ISO situation on offense.
Yeah, and I know Fizdale has said that you got a bunch of people on expiring deals, so everyone's just doing them.
What a crazy thing to say.
Which is bad. It's a bad thing for a coach to say. Things are bad. So maybe that's what you're talking about.
So when you're the coach, maybe like get people to run an offense. I don't know. And if they don't run the offense, you don't play them and then they can't play for themselves. I don't know. I'm not the coach.
These are ideas. We'll see. We'll see if they implement them next game.
But also a lot of times like running an offense would lead you to playing better, and playing better would lead to a bigger contract. So,
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if I buy that excuse so much from Fizdale. Probably one of my least favorite things he's said all season.
It's a vicious circle.
And I think, like, if you're playing on an unselfish team, this is the point I was originally trying to get to, but I kind of got a little verbose there. But if you're playing on a team that's unselfish, like, I think that you're more likely to cut harder. You're more likely to, set screens and try to get open and do whatever you can because you know that the ball is going to come to you if you're open and you're going to have a chance to do what you need to do. Whereas here, it feels like that's just not the case. It feels like if it goes to Timmy, he's probably chucking. If it goes to ISO Zoe, he's probably going ISO. If it goes down to Cantor, he's going up to post up. Like, nothing else is going to happen. So there's no real reason for you to exert energy on that end of the court anymore.
I mentioned a little bit on the Knicks Film School podcast, but I still love the way Hezonja cuts off ball. Like I don't know if he just disregards the offense maybe, or he just seems to find the little seams in the defense, and his timing is so good. It's the only compliment I ever give Hezonja, but he is probably the best off-ball cutter. I know I mentioned Dotson. His thing is he just sprints so hard off screens, which is really important to shake up the defense a little bit. But Hezonja is he's a very smart cutter, and I was really hoping that Frank, when he is off ball, could learn a little something from him versus just standing in the corner. I watched a few plays where the set play was just a post up Noah Vonleh, and it was just literally 4 guys standing around the perimeter as Noah Vonleh went to work, which that's one of the lowest efficiency just offensive possessions you could think of. But he made it work a few times, but that does not work in the long term.
I know you've mentioned it before, but Noah's post moves are not the best.
Yeah,
they are bad.
He's a bully. He gets down there and he'll just try to run you over, and sometimes he'll throw it up and it'll go in. Sometimes it won't, but it is what it is, and that's just kind of how Hezonja plays. Is like he just has no conscience, whether it's shooting or cutting or whatever. Like for guys who are developing, like a Knox, like a Frank Ntilikina, like I think that they're scared of running into space, bringing a double team that might mess up whoever has the ball. So I think it's a development point, and I think it's something that's just not taught enough to most young players is how to cut, how to set screens, how to run off of screens, and like these are all valuable things that would be good for a coach who is supposed to be known for developing players, taught his players how to do.
Wow, Fizdale taking a lot of heat on this pod right now.
Yeah. I'm just upset about the whole Mudiay thing still.
I mean, I know I talked about it before, but on the Knicks Film School pod I was on, guys, Macri, he asked me what my grade would be for Fizdale, and I gave him a C. And I don't know. Do you guys think that was too generous?
I mean, it's tough to say because the Knicks are so bad. Like, how good would a good coach have this team? I mean, but based on their record, that he's doing a bad job. But we know that there's more to it than that. Like the rotations, we strongly disagree with. We want to see more Frank. The Frank DNP CDs we're collecting at one point, those were very bad. Nobody wanted that. Maybe he was trying to send a message, but maybe that message was not needed, and we could just develop our player by actually putting him on the floor.
Well, just to play devil's advocate real quickly, there is a whole segment of Knicks Twitter who hates Frank. I'm sure you guys have seen this, but they think that anytime Frank does get minutes, it's because he's being spoon-fed minutes and he hasn't earned them, and that he doesn't deserve them flat out that with his play, and that Fizdale's trying to instill this culture of earning your minutes. And maybe your answer to that is, well, then they're just undervaluing Frank's defense. Maybe that's it. But
maybe he is being spoon-fed minutes, but that's what he needs to develop.
Like who on this team, this 10-35 team, is like firmly earned their minutes? Tim Hardaway Jr. has been playing terrible for most of the season. Emmanuel Mudiay can't guard anyone. Like Kevin Knox has been good scoring the basketball, but hasn't been able to play defense, and has been pretty inefficient shooting the ball. So like I don't understand the argument that Frank doesn't deserve minutes based off of him, what he has occasionally been unable to do on the offensive end, and what he has in small spurts been able to do on the offensive end. So like if Frank win those 2 games where he put up 16 points one game, 17 points the next game or something like that, and then he had like 2 bad games and people were ready to bench him, and it's like that's not how this works. Like it takes time to develop players, so you just got to give them some freedom. And what are they playing for right now that you're that worried about Frank going 1 for 7 in a game?
NBA championship.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. So what was your grade for Fizz then, Ken? Based on that,
I mean, I think a C is. So while I was listening to Tom talking around Nick's film school, I was thinking like the obvious answer is an incomplete because his team is incomplete right now. They have no idea what they're going to look like next year, and they don't have their best player in Kristaps Porzingis this year. But as far as like judging what he has done this year, I think maybe probably a C. I'm happy with a couple of things he's doing. Potentially, giving Enes Kanter less minutes, having guys like Courtney Lee and Lance Thomas on the bench so that they can give other guys more minutes. I'm less happy with other things like the Mudiay thing just bothers me. Like he just gets too many minutes. I was a Mudiay fan or a Mudiay defender from the beginning when everyone was talking about cutting him and keeping Ron Baker. I said, don't do that. Like he's still a solid player, and I think he's a solid player, but I just don't think that he has earned the leash that he has gotten. Like I think he's a valuable NBA player. I don't think that he is a starting point guard in this league.
that's a fair point. I guess I'll give him a C as well, Tom. I think because I mean, F too far, A certainly not. So C is right.
All right, as long as I have your guys' support, that's really all I need.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else we need to touch on?
We got any games this week?
There's 3 games this week, not including today's game, which already happened. The Houston Rockets, James Harden. The Brooklyn Nets, who are hot right now, and the Miami Heat, who are doing well for themselves. They're in the playoff picture again. And before you give me your predictions for those 3 games, the Knicks are currently on a 6-game losing streak, and they are 2-19 in their last 21 games. So what do you guys think about the next 3 games?
Undefeated.
3-0. That's strong, guys.
No, I'm gonna take 1 and 2. I think we're gonna beat Brooklyn because Nets Daily has been talking trash to us. So
it's very, very optimistic.
Might as well.
It's tough when predicting 1 and 2 is very optimistic.
Yeah.
So Tom, what do you got for me?
I'm also going to go glass half full here and say 1 and 2. Someone from Nets Republic reached out to me this weekend and asked if I would write a few things about this upcoming matchup, and he asked me to make a prediction, and I said I thought that the Knicks would win this one, tie the season series. That the Nets came into MSG last time and took one on the Knicks home court, and I thought that the Knicks I think they take a lot of pride in this crosstown rivalry, or maybe they don't. Maybe they don't even think about it, but maybe that's even more of a slap in the face. But at the very least, I think that they will go in to Brooklyn, where there will probably be more Knicks fans than Nets fans, and take care of business and finish the week a legitimate 1 and 2 and hold their head high.
All right, so I'm gonna abstain from making a prediction.
Smart.
Just because I don't want to say 0-3.
Hey Greg, let me.
So I got another question for you guys though.
I hope it's the same question I was about to ask. Go.
How many points is James Harden scoring?
That's what I was going to ask.
I knew it. So let's get that prediction. He has scored 58, 57, and 48 in his last 3 games. No, 58, 58, 57, and yeah.
How many has he scored in his last few games against the Knicks? Do we have that information?
No.
No,
all right.
There'd be no way of knowing that. I mean, we could look it up on Basketball Reference, but I won't. I will say, so it's going to be a Wednesday night game.
At MSG.
The lights are on. The celebs are out. Yeah, I think he'll probably put up 73.
Is that what David Robinson put up to win the the scoring championship.
It is something like that. I mean, so James Harden is averaging 35.7 this year. So on an average game, he would have 35.7 points.
So I'm trying to remember if it was James Harden, but didn't he have 2 ridiculous triple doubles against the Knicks that were like
Yes.
50-point triple doubles?
Yes, he definitely had a 50-point triple-double against the Knicks last year.
Okay, so that's what I was looking for, trying to figure out. I think his career high is 56 in scoring, so I'm going to go for 57. I think he's going to put up 57.
I don't know if you were listening, but I told you his last 3 games he's had 58, 57, 59. And 48. So
59, sorry.
59.
I'm looking at some old information.
All right. Yeah, and in his last game, the Vegas over-under on his points was 41, which was a record. So I'm going to use that 41 as an over-under. I'm going to take the over. This Knicks team is not good at defense, so I think we're looking at another 48 or.
I think I undersold him at 73. I almost upped it just now, but I'm going to show some restraint. No, I do think he'll get into the 60s though. I think 61 is reasonable. Who's going to guard it? Who's going to guard it?
Frank, Vonleh, Moutier. So I typed in to Google James Harden career high, and that's where I came up with that 56 number. But now I'm seeing he had like a 60-point game against the Magic last year, so I don't even know. But whatever his career high is, his new career high is going to be tomorrow night.
Double it.
Double it.
Take it, double it.
All right. Well, I think that's all we got for today. Let's go Knicks.
Listen, subscribe, rate us, 5-star reviews.
Read Tom's articles.
He
read through the B-Ball Index, and he tweets from his account at Tom Piccolo, maybe?
I think it's Tom_Piccolo. I don't tweet a ton, but I'm getting a little more into it lately.
But you tweet out the articles.
I definitely tweet out the articles. Very self-promotional account.
And that's what it's about these days. All right, I think that's all we got for you. Let's go Knicks.
Also, just tweet at Jake and let him know that he sucks.
All right, let's go Knicks.
Mixtape.